This is an article I wrote maybe about 6 years ago now, and it's about cutting corners. And this is something that, we say metaphorically, like don't cut corners, but you can also take it literally. And so I wanted to explore this. And I like looking at things, I try to look at things as objectively as possible and look at things mathematically, so we're all on the same page. So consider the example of every day at lunch you walk around a track. And most of us at our work, we don't have a nice elliptical or oval track. Maybe we walk around in the building or a parking lot or something like that. For me, we have some parking structures, so I walk on the parking structures. You can kind of walk up and down, but each floor is basically a square. So this is my diagram of one of the floors of the parking structure, just a square. And the length of the square is S. So each side has length S. Now, so if you walk the whole square, you walk 4 times S, or 4S. But really what happens, and if you can observe people do this, on an elliptical or oval track, there's no problem. But on a square track, it's very awkward to walk literally down one side right to the corner and then take this right angled turn and walk all the way over, etc. You tend to walk one length almost and then kind of cut the corner, and that's these blue lines on the diagram. So you end up actually walking like this octagon in shape. You walk this octagon shape for your track. And so the length of the side of the square is S, but when you cut it by this A diagonal, you're left with this length of T. And I just do some basic math, and you can calculate what that actual, the length T is, given what A is. And therefore, if you walk that octagon track, the total length you've walked is 4T, and then you have to add back in these A sides, so 4T plus 4A. But that's a smaller distance than if you walk S. In other words, that's a smaller distance than if you walk the whole square track. The difference is, well, it's just 4S minus 4T minus 4A. Okay, so that's kind of the diagram of what's going on. The point I want to make is if you cut corners like that, it really adds up fast. You wouldn't believe it. So I'll show you with some actual numbers. But here's some numbers. Just say S is 100 feet, and say this A length is 15 feet. So the perimeter of the entire square, if you were to walk that, is 400 feet. But the perimeter of this octagon track would only be 375 feet. Okay, so every lap that you do the octagon, you're giving up 25 feet of exercise, of weight loss, however you want to look at it. So, and that's just one lap. That's just one lap for one day of the year. You might walk 6 or 7 laps a day, and you might do that for 10 years. So that distance really adds up. And so that's this Excel spreadsheet I made. And I have the parameters over here. Everything that's in yellow is what you would input. So the length of the square, the length of that A kind of cut over section. It calculates the length of the side of the octagon for you, the long length, how many laps. So let's just say, yeah, 100 feet is the side of this square. Cut over is 15. And yeah, maybe at lunchtime I do 8 laps. Okay. So again, we see the calculations of the square and the octagon as before. We're losing, 25 feet per lap. So now here's where I do the calculations over time. If I were to keep up that practice over time of cutting corners, here's what I lose. So per outing, I would lose 25 feet per lap times 8 laps. So I'd lose about roughly 200 feet per outing. Now in a year, okay, now I just multiplied by 365. I understand if you multiply that, say you only do it every work day or something, okay? But you can go through and calculate this however you'd like. I just did it, pretend I literally do it every day of the year. But that comes to about 14 miles. So in a year's time, you're losing 14 miles. I mean, that's a half marathon right there. If you increase that to 10 years, then you're losing 137 miles, which is about 5 marathons. Can you imagine all of the exercise effect you're losing by cutting corners? 5 marathons worth. Okay, so I just wanted to share that idea to let you know that, when we take our goals into account, you don't want to cut corners. Obviously, metaphorically, you don't, but literally, you don't want to either, because you can see how much you can lose over time if you keep up that practice. Okay, so thanks for checking this out. I will see you next video. Bye-bye.